Fuck it, we'll make content at the same time. I'm making content. I'm talking with a friend of the stream, Nasai. We'll be talking about Bullshit Jobs. Bullshit Jobs is a book written by David Graeber. He's an anthropologist. I think he's an anarchist. Postulates the existence of meaningless jobs and analyzes their societal harm. Meaningless jobs. How many jobs in your life have you had that were just completely meaningless? It was so stupid. No one needs to be doing that thing that you're doing, right? He contends that over half of societal work is pointless and becomes psychologically destructive when paired with a work ethic that associates work with self-growth. A work ethic that associates work with self-growth? What, and like personal freedom? Arbeit macht frei? Work will make you free? Do you know who said that? Is this the same thing? Does this literally come from the same thing? I'm not sure. It sounds the same. All right, Graeber, he talks about 5 types. Same vein. Is it literally the same vein? I'm losing my mind. Wow. 5 types of meaningless jobs in which workers pretend their role is not as pointless or harmful as they know it to be. Flunkies, goons, duct tapers, box tickers, and taskmasters. Okay, maybe I've not read the book. I feel like I've maybe just... I think I'm realizing now there's a shorter version that was just an article, and I've read that. He argues that the association of labor with virtuous suffering is recent in human history and proposes unions and universal basic income as a potential solution. Well, no. Those are good things, and those are things that we need, and those are things that move toward socialism, but those are things that don't push the big red socialism button. But, yes, we need those things. Not a solution. Not a final potential solution, though. Okay, that's just my initial look at that. This book is an extension of a popular essay. I've read the essay. It's much shorter. He published it in 2013, which later translated into 12 languages, whose underlying premise became the subject of a YouGov poll. Graeber subsequently solicited hundreds of testimonials from people with meaningless jobs and revised his case into a book published in May 2018. Tell me about one of your bullshit jobs, Chet. You had a temp job. You were going through letter-sized envelopes, making sure the print was all facing the same way for 8 hours. No way. Come on. Come on. Why? He suggests them as an intermediate step for sure. Well, very well then. I appreciate that. The article is included in the beginning of the book. Well, we'll pull up the article. I think that'll be nice. I think it's worth reading, right? I had another temp job loading flyers on a folding machine for 12 hours. I had a job walking around neighborhoods, stuffing mailboxes illegally with flyers for a dude's Xerox company. That's one of the jobs I had. I had a job delivering groceries to people who had plenty of time to do it themselves. How about that? I'm pretty sure PragerU tweeted that work will set you free on Holocaust Remembrance Day. All right, let's not put it past them, but I'm curious if they did. Thank you for the link, Nasai. We'll pull this up in a moment after I finish reading through the headlines or whatever. Yeah. Let's see what else y'all used to do. Used to go door to door selling cable. It ran me into the ground. Just like the cable. I actually had a cable-related job where I was going house to house checking to see whether or not people had effectively illegal cable connections. I was checking to see whether or not people were stealing cable. I was a cop. Oh, I was totally a cop. I wasn't very good at it, though. It was very slow. To be fair. If they were ever connected, I didn't say anything. I looked the other way. I was totally a cop. I didn't realize. I was a cable cop. Damn it. I just told on myself. All right, hold on. Can we go back and do this video over? So, bullshit jobs. Anyways. Anything else I need to say about this? Yeah, exactly. Coming to NBC in summer 2023, Cable Cop. Starring Jim Carrey. That's all I got, honestly. That's all I had. This is why you need to put me in a writer's room so we can riff off each other. Think about it.
Don't get cheap on me, Dodson.
The reality is, for many jobs, it's cheaper to have a human do it than a robot or AI. AI, especially in situations where they have little to no labor protections. All right. You went door to door asking for money for Sierra Club. That sounds like bullshit. Okay. The deal. He does bring up Keynesian ideas. In bullshit jobs, Graeber posits the productivity benefits of automation have not led to a 15-hour work week as predicted by economist John Maynard Keynes in 1930, but instead to bullshit jobs. A form of employment that's so completely pointless, unnecessary, or pernicious that even the employee cannot justify its existence, even though, as part of the conditions of employment, the employee feels obligated to pretend that this is not the case. Yeah. You have to act like you're doing something that's worthwhile. And you're like, well, I'm only doing it to get my money out of this shit. Literally on January 27th, 2021, he says they say the market will set you free. Holy shit. That is some fucked up shit. They just switched a couple words around. On Holocaust Remembrance Day, is that the day? Not to make you do all this legwork here. All right. The jobs may offer good compensation. They often don't. They may offer ample free time. They often don't. Graeber holds that the pointlessness of the work grates at their humanity and creates a profound psychological violence. As more than half of its pointless flunkies who serve to make their superiors feel important, goons who act to harm or deceive others on behalf of their employer, duct tapers who temporarily fix problems that could be fixed permanently, box tickers who create the appearance that something useful is being done when it's not, and task masters who create extra work for those who don't need it. All right. Really? Hey, guys. Here we go. I'll say I got a bullshit job. My job is to sit around and tell people how much there are bullshit jobs. This job doesn't need to exist. Hold on, which one is it? What am I? I'm here to temporarily fix problems that could be fixed permanently. I guess I'm a duct taper? Is that what I am? Is this what I am? Am I a taskmaster? A taskmaster? I'm not really sure about that. Can someone please look up an article to find out whether or not I'm a taskmaster? That'd be nice. Thank you. All right. Oh, I'm a duct taper flunky. You could be both. You could be many, I guess. I'm a flunky, but in a different way. Ideally, I work myself out of a job if I'm good enough. Maybe I'm just not good enough at it. That's why it hasn't happened yet. That's why we haven't seen that big red socialism button. I'm just not good enough at making content. This is clearly the problem. To anyone, oh my gosh, I love this. To anyone who would rather be doing something useful with themselves. What a hot opening. All right, do I have the time to do this? Oh, shit. I'm not going to read all that. Was that the book or the essay? It's both. Oh. I just want the essay. I just want the essay. Is that chapter 1? The preface? All right, I get that. All right. We're not reading the whole thing. But, Chad, if you want to, or Chad, or replay viewer, YouTube viewer, if you want to watch or read this on your own, the link will be below, and it is in the chat around here somewhere, right? Here it is. I got it. I got this. Pro streamer. Here we go. Let's read this together. Preface on the phenomenon of bullshit jobs. In the spring of 2013, I unwittingly set off a very minor international sensation. It all began when I was asked to write an essay for a new radical magazine called Strike. The editor asked if I had anything provocative that no one else would be likely to publish. I usually have one or two ideas that I was stewing around, so I drafted one up, presented him with a brief piece entitled On the Phenomenon of Bullshit Jobs. What? He, developed this, sort of theory in 2013? What, did Marx not think of this? Did Marx not just have he didn't have a name for it? What happened here? I'm not the Marx understander. Maybe I need someone to help me out here. Very off the cuff. Yeah. The essay was based on a hunch. Everyone is familiar with those sorts of jobs that don't seem, to the outsider, to really do much of anything. HR consultants, communications coordinators, PR researchers, financial strategists, corporate lawyers, or the sort of people very familiar in academic contexts who spend their time staffing committees that discuss the problem of unnecessary committees. Look at that. The list was seemingly endless. What, I wondered, if these jobs really are useless and those who hold them are really aware of it? Certainly, you could meet people now and then who seem to feel their jobs are pointless and unnecessary. Could there be even anything more demoralizing than having to wake up in the morning 5 out of 7 days of one's adult life to perform a task that one secretly believed did not need to be performed? It was simply a waste of time or resources, or that even made the world worse? Would this not be a terrible psychic wound running across our society? Oh, it's so true. Yet, if so, it was one that no one ever seemed to talk about. There were plenty of surveys over whether people were happy at work. There were none, as far as I knew, about whether or not they felt their jobs had any good reason to exist. Yeah, this possibility that our society is riddled with useless jobs that no one wants to talk about and did not seem inherently implausible. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. The subject of work is riddled with taboos. Even the fact that most people don't like their jobs and would relish an excuse not to go to work is considered something that can't be really admitted on TV. Certainly not the TV news, even if it might occasionally be alluded to in documentaries and stand up comedy. I had experienced these taboos myself. I once acted as the media liaison for an activist group that, rumor had it, was planning a civil disobedience campaign to shut down the Washington, D.C. transport system as part of a protest against global economic summit. In the days leading up to it, you could hardly go anywhere looking like an anarchist without some cheerful civil servant walking up to you and asking whether it was really true he or she wouldn't have to go to work on Monday. Yet at the same time, TV crews managed dutifully to interview city employees, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of them were the same city employees, commenting on how terribly tragic it would be if they wouldn't be able to get to work, since they knew that's what it would take to get them on TV. No one seems to feel free to say what they really feel about such matters, at least in public. It was plausible, but I didn't really know. In a way, I wrote the piece as a kind of experiment. I was interested to see what sort of response it would elicit. This is what I wrote for the August 2013 issue on the phenomenon of bullshit jobs. In the year 1930. This is how David Graeber talks, right? In the year. I don't know what I'm doing. Please forgive me. All right. In the year 1930, John Maynard Keynes predicted that by century's end, technology would have advanced sufficiently. Countries like Great Britain or the U.S. would have achieved a 15-hour work week. All right. We already touched on this. Let's keep reading. Every reason to believe he was right. In technological terms, we're quite capable of this, and it didn't happen. Instead, technology has been marshaled, if anything, to figure out ways to make us all work more. In order to achieve this, jobs have had to be created that are effectively pointless. Huge swaths of people in Europe and North America in particular spend their entire working lives performing tasks they secretly believe do not need to be performed. The moral and spiritual damage that comes from this situation is profound. It's a scar across our collective soul. But no one talks about it. Maybe you're right, Mike Boy. Why did Keynes' promised utopia, still being eagerly awaited in the 60s, never materialize? The standard line today is that he didn't figure in the massive increase in consumerism. Given the choice between less hours and more toys and pleasures, we've collectively chosen the latter. This presents a nice morality tale, but even a moment's reflection shows it can't really be true. Yes, we've witnessed the creation of an endless variety of new jobs and industries since the 20s, but very few have anything to do with the production and distribution of sushi, iPhones, or fancy sneakers. Yeah, we're touching a little bit on Keynesianism. There's a better answer to the why. The why. The why? Standard line? All right, presents a nice morality tale, but even a moment's reflection, it's not really true. Okay, so what are these new jobs precisely? A recent report comparing employment in the U.S. between 1910 and 2000 gives us a clear picture, and I note one pretty much exactly echoed in the U.K. Over the course of the last century, the number of workers employed as domestic servants in industry and in the farm sector has collapsed dramatically. At the same time, professional, managerial, clerical, sales, and service workers tripled, growing from 1/4 to 3/4 of total employment. Ugh. we go, they're trying to steal our culture, and this is our culture. No, they don't want it. They don't want this, I promise you. In other words, productive jobs have, just as predicted, been largely automated away. Even if you count industrial workers globally, including the toiling masses in India and China, such workers are still not nearly so large a percentage of the world population as they used to be. Yeah, we left Keynes behind for Chicago School of Economics. Neither are great. But neoliberalism is like one of the worst versions of capitalism you can imagine. And that's what we got right now, right? We're desperate for Keynesianism. Some places. Let's put it that way. There are some places that are doing better. That Keynesianism would be a step backwards, right? Is that my understanding? Okay. All right, moving on. But rather than allowing a massive reduction of working hours to free the world's population to pursue their own projects, pleasures, visions, and ideas, we've seen the ballooning, not even so much of the service sector as of the administrative sector, up to and including the creation of whole new industries like financial services or telemarketing, or the unprecedented expansion of sectors like corporate law, academic and health administration, human resources, they're not your friends, and public relations. And these numbers do not even reflect all those people whose job it is to provide administrative, technical, or security support for these industries. Oh my God, right? Or, for that matter, the whole host of ancillary industries, dog washers, all-night pizza delivery men that only exist because everyone else is spending so much of their fucking time working in all the other ones. Oh my God. This all makes sense, right? It just sort of goes bing, 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 bing with all these light bulbs in my head. These are what I propose to call bullshit jobs. Yeah. And I think I would agree to a degree. He mentions like public relations. I'm just saying we hit the big red socialism button or the big red communism button, and I'm not sure all of these jobs go away. Does that make sense? All right. But I would say perhaps a vast majority. All right. I could definitely improve my understanding. Let's keep reading. It's as if someone were out there making up pointless jobs just for the sake of keeping us all working. Yeah, that's when you start to get these little sirens going off in your head. You're like, wait, what? Is it God? Is that you, God? It's me, Judy Bloom. And here, precisely, lies the mystery. And here, precisely, I have to pause. I think we left off right here. In capitalism, this is precisely what is not supposed to happen. Pointless jobs, right? Sure, in the old, efficient socialist states like the Soviet Union, where employment was considered both a right and a sacred duty, the system made up as many jobs as it had to. This is why in Soviet department stores, it took three clerks to sell a piece of meat. But of course, this is the very sort of problem market competition is supposed to fix. According to economic theory, at least, the last thing a profit-seeking firm is going to do is shell out money to workers they don't really need to employ. Still, somehow it happens. While corporations may engage in ruthless downsizing, the layoffs and speed-ups invariably fall on the class of people who are actually making, moving, fixing, and maintaining things. Through some strange alchemy no one can quite explain, the number of salaried paper pushers ultimately seems to expand, and more employees find themselves, not unlike Soviet workers, actually working 40 or even 50-hour weeks on paper, but effectively working 50 hours just as Keynes predicted. 15 hours just as Keynes predicted. Since the rest of their time is spent organizing or attending motivational seminars, updating their Facebook profiles, or downloading TV box sets. Well, hold on. Isn't the argument that we're working 15 hours, but we're just working 40 to 50 to continue making profit for our employers? Isn't that the idea? I don't know. This doesn't seem very Marxist. The answer clearly isn't economic. It's moral and political. The ruling class, hey, Portside, the ruling class has figured out that a happy, productive population with free time on their hands is a mortal danger. Think of what started to happen when this even began to be approximated in the 60s. And on the other hand, the feeling that work is a moral value in itself and that anyone not willing to submit themselves to some kind of intense work discipline for most of their waking hours deserves nothing is extremely convenient for them. All right. Once, when contemplating the apparent endless growth of administrative responsibilities in British academic departments, I came up with one possible vision of hell. Hell is a collection of individuals who are spending the bulk of their time working on a task they don't like and are not especially good at. Say they were hired because they're excellent cabinet makers, and then discover that they're expected to spend a great deal of their time frying fish. Nor does the task really need to be done. At least there's only a limited number of fish that need to be fried. Yet somehow they all become so obsessed with resentment at the thought that some of their coworkers might be spending more time making cabinets and not doing their fair share of the fry fishing cape responsibilities that before long, there's endless piles of useless, badly cooked fish piling up all over the workshop. And it's all that anyone really does. All right. I think this is actually a pretty accurate description of the moral dynamics of our own economy. Now, I realize that any such argument is going to run into immediate objections. Who are you to say that jobs are really necessary? What's necessary anyway? You're an anthropology professor. What's the need for that? And indeed, a lot of tabloid readers would take the existence of my job as the very definition of a wasteful social expenditure. And on one level, this is obviously true. There can be no objective measure of social value. I would not presume to tell someone who's convinced that they're making a meaningful contribution to the world that really they're not. But what about those people who are themselves convinced their jobs are meaningless? Not long ago, I got back in touch with a school friend who hadn't seen since I was 15, was amazed to discover that in the interim he'd become a poet and the front man in an indie rock band. I'd heard some of the songs on the radio, having no idea the singer was someone I actually knew. He was obviously brilliant, innovative, and his work had unquestionably brightened and improved the lives of all people around the world. It's probably Eve 6 guy. Gotta be Eve 6 guy. Yet, after a couple of unsuccessful he's only had good albums. He lost his contract, plagued with debts, and a newborn daughter, ended up, as he put it, taking the default choice of so many directionless folk. Law school. Now he's a corporate lawyer working in a prominent New York firm. He was first to admit that his job was utterly meaningless, contributed nothing to the world, and in its own estimation should not really exist. Yeah, wait, a couple of unsuccessful albums? Adam Levine? It's gotta be. There's a lot of questions one could ask here, starting with what does it say about our society that it seems to generate an extremely limited demand for talented poet musicians, but apparently infinite demand for specialists in corporate law? Right? Answer. If 1% of the population controls most of the disposable wealth, what we call the market reflects what they think is useful or important, not anybody else. Wow. But even more, it shows that most people in pointless jobs are ultimately aware of it. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever met a corporate lawyer who didn't think their job was bullshit. Same goes for almost all the new industries outlined above. There's a whole class of salaried professionals that you should meet them at parties and admit that you do something that might be considered interesting. An anthropologist, for example. They will want to even avoid discussing their line of work entirely. Give them a few drinks, then they'll launch into tirades about how pointless and stupid the job really is. This is a profound psychological violence here. How can one even begin to speak of dignity in labor when one secretly feels one job should not exist? Talk about dignity. Hint comes from what capitalism thinks is useful or important, not individual humans. Yeah. How can it not create a sense of deep rage and resentment? Yet it is the particular genius of our society that its rulers have figured out in a way, as is the case in the fish fryers, to ensure that rage is directed precisely against those who actually do get to do meaningful work. For instance, in our society, there seems to be a general rule that the more obviously one's work benefits other people, the less one is likely to be paid for it. Wow. Again, an objective measure is hard to find, but there's one easy way to get a sense is to ask, what would happen were this entire class of people to be simply disappear? Say, what would you like about nurses? Say what you like about nurses, garbage collectors, or mechanics. It's obvious that they were to vanish in a puff of smoke. The results would be immediate and catastrophic. I love this little bit of imagination right here. A world without teachers or dock workers would soon be in trouble. And not even one without science fiction writers or ska musicians would clearly be a lesser place. Ska musicians? Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Get out of here. It's not entirely clear how humanity would suffer. Would all private equity CEOs, lobbyists, PR researchers, actuaries, telemarketers, bailiffs, or legal consultants to similarly vanish? Let's just say he said ska musicians, maybe because let's just say best case scenario there was a ska moment of revival. Maybe his friend was a ska musician. Well, that probably makes sense, right? Like ska was not doing well by 2013. Probably talking about his friend. Yeah. Where were we? Here, many suspect it might improve markedly. Yet apart from a handful of well-touted exceptions, doctors, the rule holds surprisingly well. Even more perverse, there seems to be a broad sense that this is the way things should be. This is one of the secret strengths of right-wing populism. You can see it when tabloids whip up resentment against tube workers for paralyzing London during contract disputes. The very fact that tube workers can paralyze London shows that the work is actually necessary. But this seems to be precisely what annoys people. It's even clearer in the U.S., where Republicans have had remarkable success mobilizing resentment against school teachers and auto workers, and not significantly against the school administrators or auto industry execs who actually cause the problems for their supposedly bloated wages and benefits. It's as if they're being told, but you get to teach children or make cars. You get to have real jobs. And on top of that, you have the nerve to also expect middle-class pensions and health care? Yeah. If someone had designed a work regime perfectly suited to maintaining the power of finance capital, it's hard to see how he or she could have done a better job. Clearly, it's designed. It's like it's working exactly as designed, right? By the people who have the power to design it. Real, productive workers are relentlessly squeezed and exploited. The remainder are divided between a terrorized stratum of the universally reviled unemployed and a larger stratum who are basically paid to do nothing, in positions designed to make them identify with the perspectives and sensibilities of the ruling class, the managers, administrators, etc. And particularly, its financial avatars, but at the same time foster a simmering resentment against anyone whose work has clear and undeniable social value. Clearly, the system was never consciously designed. It emerged from almost a century of trial and error. It's consciously upkept, though. But it is the only explanation for why, despite our technological capacities, we are all not working 3 to 4 hour days. There it is. That was it. Bullshit jobs. Now there's a book. There's a whole book. The link will be in the YouTube description below. I'm not going to read it. But I hope you enjoyed reading that with me. We're making content. Live here on the twitch.tv. That's twitch.tv/iDanSimpson. I make content here every day. Just about every day. And I talk politics, and I try to do revolutionary content. Revolutionary anti-war content. And, gosh, it's not working out here. You can support the stream by subscribing here on Twitch. $5 a month. You can donate a couple biddies. You can do a one-time tip. You could buy merch. You can also support on Patreon. Patreon.com/iDanSimpson. $3 a month gets you early access to my videos. All right, love your face. Thank you so much for watching. Don't go anywhere, live chat.